UNTV News and Rescue.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Tuesday, July 26, 2016. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the globe. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are here to give you carefully gathered stories, assuring you of accurate, truthful, and balanced newscasts. I am Gerry Alcantara.
We are also seen in 1,360 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through www.untvweb.com. And this is Wine News. Here are the headlines. Supreme Court affirms that the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, is constitutional. The Armed Forces of the Philippines clarifies that the removal of military troops in communities is not covered by the unilateral ceasefire. The Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council contemplates on conducting on-site relocation in cities. The Senate leadership distributes committees among senators of the 17th Congress.
Malacanang reiterates that President Rodrigo Duterte's position to push for the barangay and SK elections as scheduled remains unchanged. President Rodrigo Duterte sets to use military camps as alternative drug rehabilitation facilities. And the PNP CIDG Anti-Transnational Crime Unit arrests an alleged big-time illegal recruiter.
First in the news, the Armed Forces of the Philippines says the pullout of military troops from communities is not part of the unilateral ceasefire declared by President Rodrigo Duterte. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines fully supports President Rodrigo Duterte's declaration of a unilateral ceasefire with the leftist yesterday at his first State of the Nation address, or SONA. AFP spokesperson Brigadier General Restituto Padilla Jr. says the armed forces are willing to follow the President's directive to stop the offensive operations against members of the Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army, and National Democratic Front.
Agaran kaming nagpalabas ng mensahe sa lahat ng ating mga units sa buong kapuluan mula Apari hanggang Hulo upang ipaalam sa lahat ang order ng ating Commander-in-Chief. At ito po ay ang kanyang pagdeklara ng suspension of military operations. Immediately ang kanyang sinabi.
However, military personnel remain alert in defending themselves against possible attacks from communist groups. The AFP also clarifies they won't be pulling out personnel, especially in communities and places where security threats are present. The Lumads have long appealed for the demilitarization of their communities.
Ang mangyayari po ay isususpindi na po natin at ititigil na po natin lahat ng ating mga opensiba laban po sa hanay ng NPA. Hindi po nangangahulugan na magbaback to barracks tulad ng pagkaintindi ng karamihan.
The military is hoping that the leftists will reciprocate the unilateral ceasefire declaration of the Philippine government to attain lasting peace. Meanwhile, the chairperson of the negotiating panel of the National Democratic Front, Luis Halandoni, affirmed their determination to reciprocate and work for a just and lasting peace after receiving the full text of the declaration. He also expects for the next step of the government to release all current political prisoners. From August 20 to 27, the resumption of formal peace talks between the government and the CPP-NPA-NDF will be held in Oslo, Norway. Meanwhile, the military will maintain its intensified offensive operations against the terrorist and bandit group Abu Sayyaf. Rosalie Coz, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Aguinaldo.
Malacanang asserts its position that the barangay and sanggunian kabataan elections should push through in October. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
Malacanang remains firm in its position not to postpone the barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections. President Rodrigo Duterte has mentioned that he will not allow the postponement of the October polls because doing so would extend the term of current barangay and SK officials. The Commission on Elections hopes that Congress will be able to decide whether to postpone the barangay and SK elections before August 21.
So kung biglang i-postpone nila yun, tapos papalitan na naman natin balota, dagdag gastos.
Bautista says some legislators have already coordinated with him in line with the postponement issue. One of the questions raised was the cost of savings should the barangay and SK polls be held coinciding with the Constitutional Convention.
And the number that is being advised is mga 6 to 7 billion. So pagka sinabay mo, yun ang matitipid mong 6 to 7 billion.
For now, COMELEC has no reason to defer the preparations that they are doing for the elections. Nel Maribohok, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Commission on Elections will no longer extend the voters' registration for the barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections in October. Victor Cosare, please tell us why.
Based on data of the Commission on Elections, as of July 24, there are 1.4 million registrants in the country ahead of the barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections in October 31. The COMELEC's registration period is only until July 30, Saturday, after which the agency will no longer provide extensions. This is because other matters about the October elections will be affected if they will extend the registration.
Alam mo, hindi natin ma-extend nga because yung project of precincts kailangan natin i-finalize. And if we extend it, hindi na natin magagawa. Unless, i-postpone nila yung barangay and SK at pwede pa natin magkaroon ng registration.
As the deadline approaches, COMELEC advises the public to expect long queues of last-minute registrants in COMELEC offices. Those who have voted in the May 9 polls need not register. However, there are 2 million deactivated voters who must reactivate because they were not able to register their biometrics data before the May 9 polls. Of the figure, only 80,000 reactivated, so the agency appeals to the voters to register ahead of the deadline so that the poll body would be able to update its records. Aside from those affected by the no bio, no boto policy, those who were not able to vote in 2 consecutive elections are considered deactivated. Meanwhile, COMELEC has cancelled the bidding of ballot boxes that are supposed to be used in the October polls. For this reason, the government was able to save 642 million pesos, supposedly to buy more than 200,000 ballot boxes.
Tapos yung mga pag-purchase ng ballot box, we canceled it na kasi we have enough doon sa mga lumang ballot boxes, hindi na kailangan bilhin.
Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The Philippine National Police hopes for the continued peaceful conduct of demonstrations among rallyists in the succeeding State of the Nation addresses in the country. Leia Ilagan will tell us why.
The commitment of the militant groups was the key to the peaceful conduct of President Rodrigo Duterte's recent State of the Nation address. QCPD Director, Police Senior Superintendent Guillermo Eleazar attributed the orderly assembly to the respect and trust that they rendered to the rallyists unlike in previous SONAs.
Sabi nila, ano po kami, peaceful kami. And true to their word, ito kasi tiwalaan
Administering dialogues among the leaders of different groups and having an open line of communications encourage authorities to allow rallyists to march near the Batasan complex. Eleazar adds that he even dared to give more than what the militant groups have asked for. However, he ensured the security of the Batasan grounds.
Ang wish ko lang ay for the SONA for the next 6 years, sana ay para tayong get together. And it started talaga yesterday.
Meanwhile, the militant groups have sworn their commitment to unity and support the administration through peaceful assembly.
ramdam ng mga mamamayan kahit papano yung efforts ng gobyerno para sa pagbabago at yung pagsusulong ng pisto. Nandito isang bayan ng Pilipino, nakikibaka, handang sumuporta para sa panawagan ng pagbabago.
Eleazar, who stood as the ground commander in the SONA, is also hopeful that this is the start of the peaceful demonstration among militant groups and good relation between CAPs and the rallyists. Eleazar adds that PNP Chief Police Director General Ronald De La Rosa also contributed greatly by establishing good rapport and being a credible leader respected by rallyists. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Filipino communities in Saudi Arabia were pleased to hear about President Rodrigo Duterte's plans for overseas Filipino workers in his first State of the Nation address. Marge Navarro tells us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte's State of the Nation address has earned praises from Filipinos in Saudi Arabia.
The government shall work towards amendment of the 1996 passport law to lengthen the validity of the passports from the current 5 years to 10 years. Moreover, a one-stop shop will be established within the civil aviation complex for the benefit of the overseas Filipinos. We shall intensify our war against human traffickers and illegal recruiters that prey on our migrants.
United OFW convener John Monterona said they are elated that the current administration is paying attention to the conditions of OFWs.
Natutuwa tayo dahil yung mga nakaraang administrasyon talagang nahihiya banggitin ng OFW, pero si Presidente Duterte talagang pinagmamalaki niya yung programa niya para sa ating mga OFW.
The group Migrante International in Riyadh agrees with Monterona. According to Adonis Borbe, head of the Right and Welfare Assistance Program, they now have a positive outlook after hearing President Duterte's plans to resolve the problems of the OFWs in the country. Aside from those mentioned in the SONA, Monterona also proposes the abolition of Overseas Employment Certificate or OEC, as well as the authentication fee, if not reduce its cost.
Ang ibig kong sabihin, kung hindi naman kailangan at makakagaan sa OFW at iba pang gustong mag-abroad ay sana tanggalin na.
For his part, Borbe said the president should also pay attention to the bilateral agreements with various countries, especially with Saudi Arabia, due to the increasing cases of abused household workers. For now, our compatriots in Saudi Arabia hope that President Duterte will fulfill everything that he said at the soonest possible time. Marge Navarro, UNTV News and Rescue.
A group of Filipino manufacturers plans to recommend to President Rodrigo Duterte the creation of a separate department for the industry sector. Darlene Basingan will tell us why.
The restrictions on the economy will be needed to make more investments to come and to develop labor-intensive industries such as manufacturing, agriculture and tourism shall be pursued.
A group of local Filipino manufacturers was among those who lauded the first State of the Nation address by President Rodrigo Duterte, particularly his promise to develop the industry sector. The Federation of Filipino Industries, or FPI, says giving focus on the industry sector would help improve the economy. Jess Aranza of the FPI says the manufacturing sector in particular creates more quality jobs than the services sector. Economists believe providing a lot of quality jobs results in equal distribution of wealth.
Nais mo ang traffic sa concentration sa mga syudad at nagkaroon ka ng balance or more equitable distribution of wealth.
Aranza also says that his group would recommend to the President the creation of an industry department that would separate it from the current DTI. He explains having a separate department for the industry sector would be beneficial for its growth.
Ang trade gustong palagi mababa ang tariff. Ang gusto naman ng industriya, mataas ang tariff ng mga finished products para maproteksyonan ang local industries. So itong dalawang departamento talagang magko-conflict ito.
Ibon Foundation, however, observes that until now, Duterte's plans to industrialize the economy remains unclear.
What is lacking is you must have that industrialization plan, and all the rest of the macroeconomic indicators and even your social indicators should be attuned to that plan.
Darlene Basingan, UNTV News and Rescue.
Vice President and Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council Head Leni Robredo has been studying on-site relocation projects for displaced informal settlers. Grace Casin will tell us why.
In these past few weeks, Vice President Leni Robredo has been busy meeting and visiting relocation sites in far-flung barangays. Here, Vice President saw the importance of having an on-site relocation for informal settlers that have been displaced after a demolition. More than a proper shelter, displaced families should also have access to livelihood sources.
Ang social cost, grabe kasi nagkakahiwalay yung mga pamilya. Dahil yung asawa sa mga anak nandun na sa kung saan yung relocation site sa labas ng Manila, yung tatay bumalik dito para magtrabaho, marami na nagkaroon ng panibagong pamilya.
Based on a study by the Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council or HUDC, the large numbers of informal settlers are in Metro Manila. This is why they're working on the possibility of building a mid-high-rise housing project.
Tinitingnan natin yung iba't ibang models na existing ngayon. Tinitingnan natin alin sa mga models yung magandang i-replicate.
But because HUDC can do only coordination and doesn't have its own budget for housing construction, they want all agencies under HUDC to work each other in implementing the projects. Next week, HUDC will be meeting the developer that is supposed to build the housing projects of the agency. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
More than 151,000 households from relocation sites and informal settlements will be given better electricity services. Joyce Balancho tells us why.
The Department of Energy and Manila Electric Company or Meralco are now starting to provide electricity service to relocation sites and informal settlements in the country. According to DOE spokesperson Pete Ilagan, together with Meralco, they have started installing separate meters and line of electricity to select areas. This is in response to the complaint forwarded to Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi by residents of Bulacan who were experiencing electricity woes.
Marami yung tumawag, marami yung nagpaabot ng kanilang reklamo na sa tagal ng panahon sila ay nakakabit lamang sa isang metro. So ibig sabihin sila ay nakakatanggap ng kuryente pero wala silang mga metro.
This is also one of the issues tackled by President Rodrigo Duterte in his State of the Nation address or SONA yesterday.
To help avoid squatter-like conditions in relocation site, we urge utilities like Meralco and electric cooperatives exercise their social corporate responsibility by making direct connections to relocation sites and depressed areas. Alam mo kung bakit? Hindi na nilagyan nila dyan eh. That's why I had to talk to you ganito. Bakit? It's because walang kurente pagka mahirap ka. You do not own the land. The engineer would not. That is my experience, 23 years as mayor.
To address this, the DOE and Meralco have placed regular and prepaid electricity installments to select areas. After their initial meeting, the Department of Energy and Meralco have identified more than 2,000 households that were given electricity service under the Relocatees and Informal Settlers Program. These include areas in Bulacan, Manila, Laguna, Parañaque, Caloocan, and Quezon. Meralco will exercise its corporate social responsibility in covering the expenses of the said program.
Tinutulungan na lang po namin sila through financing or subsidy ng One Meralco Foundation. So parang we're targeting mga close to 5,000 families a year. So pinipila namin sila kung sino yung pinaka-urgent, yung inuuna namin.
To fast-track the installation, Meralco has reduced the requirements for electricity. DOE, on the other hand, clarified that although the program helps in improving the lives of people, this does not encourage residing in illegal settlements.
So malaga mo na mabigyan ng kuryente mga nangailangan at itong issue ng squatting should be addressed separately.
Joyce Balancho, UNTV News and Rescue, Department of Energy.
Y News will be right back. The Supreme Court has issued a temporary restraining order enjoining the local governments of Manila, Quezon City, and Navotas from implementing their curfew ordinances. The court also ordered the local governments of the three cities to comment on the petition filed by youth group Samahan ng Progresibong Kabataan. The group filed a petition before the Supreme Court last Friday asking to nullify the curfew ordinances of the three cities and declare it contrary to Republic Act 9344 or the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act. They claim that the curfew of minors in Manila, Quezon City, and Navotas is vague, unjust, and repressive.
The court, acting on the petition for certiorari and prohibition with an application for injunction and temporary restraining order, challenging the respective curfew ordinances of the three local governments as ultra vires for being contrary to A 9344 or the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act, issued a temporary restraining order effective immediately and until further orders, enjoining the three local government units from implementing and enforcing the so-called curfew ordinances.
Meanwhile, the Armed Forces of the Philippines calls for the support of government agencies in carrying out President Rodrigo Duterte's directive of using military camps and facilities as additional treatment centers for drug dependents. Joanne Nano will tell us why.
The number of drug users and pushers who voluntarily surrendered to authorities has reached to more than 100,000 as a result of the intensive campaign against illegal drugs under the governance of President Rodrigo Duterte. Quezon City Drug Rehabilitation and Treatment Center or Tahanan is one of the more than 40 drug rehabilitation centers accredited by the Department of Health. Out of its 150-bed capacity, 146 patients are currently admitted there. More than 40 drug addicts are still on the waiting list, hoping to avail of vacant slots at the said center. Because of this, the Hanan Center has submitted their application to the DOH, asking the department to grant its request of additional beds and more personnel to treat a larger number of patients.
Nagpapa-accredited kami for expansion na maging 300 bed capacity kami. Dito double sana namin, no? Kasi nga dahil sa daming kailangang i-rehab sa ngayon.
In the first State of the Nation address or SONA of President Rodrigo Duterte, he mentioned that managing drug rehabilitation programs is among the priorities of the government. The president plans to use some military camps and facilities as alternative drug treatment centers.
We will also prioritize the rehabilitation of drug users. We will increase the number of residential treatment and rehabilitation facilities in all regions of the country. The Armed Forces of the Philippines will facilitate the preparation for the use of military camps and facilities for drug rehabilitation.
The AFP admits that drug rehabilitation is not among their expertise, but the group committed that they are ready to impart some of their military trainings in helping the drug dependents to start over.
Ang maaring magamitin ay yung mga kampo na napakalaki ng espasyo tulad ng kampo natin sa Bukidnon, ang kampo natin sa Fort Magsaysay kung maaari. May mga bahagi rin tayo ng kampo dyan sa may Tanay Rizal na napakagandang lugar at iba pang lugar na mayroong mga espasyo para sa ganitong mga programa. Kung kinakailangan ho na magkaroon ng parang military style training, siguro maibabahagi namin yan.
The AFP calls for the support of other government agencies in fulfilling President Duterte's objective of implementing his administration drug rehabilitation programs. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Supreme Court ruling on the case of enhanced defense cooperation agreement between the Philippines and United States is now final. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
The Supreme Court has affirmed their decision last January, which declared that the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement or EDCA signed between the Philippines and the United States is not unconstitutional. The High Court's 9-4 vote affirms the said decision.
The court, As per the Chief Justice writing as the ponente and voting 9-4, with Justices Hardeleza and Caguian taking no part because of previous participation, a Solicitor General and Chief Presidential Legal Counsel respectively denied the petitioner's motion for reconsideration filed against its decision of 12 January 2016, sustaining the constitutionality of the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA, between the United States and the Philippines.
The court adds that the petitioners presented no new arguments in their motion for reconsideration that would merit a reversal of their previous ruling. Among the petitioners against EDCA are former Senators Rene Saguisag and Wigberto Tañada, who voted in 1991 to evict U.S. military bases in the country. Malacanang Palace says the decision will contribute to the modernization of the armed forces and will improve its capability to respond during disasters. In their decision last January, the Supreme Court said EDCA is a mere executive agreement to implement previous military treaties between the Philippines and United States. It pointed out that EDCA is not a treaty which requires ratification by the Senate before it could be implemented. The Supreme Court also upheld the power of the President to enter into such agreements with other countries. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Supreme Court.
The Philippine National Police Criminal Investigation and Detection Group Anti-Transnational Crime Unit made a major score in fighting illegal recruitment. Leah Ilagan will tell us why.
The CIDG Anti-Transnational Crime Unit has arrested an alleged big-time illegal recruiter who victimized applicants seeking jobs abroad since 2013. Entrapment operation inside a mall in Quezon City was immediately executed against Antonio Toca Jr. following complaints from a number of his victims. Recovered from the suspect was 20,000 pesos cash together with 4 pieces of 500 peso marked money. According to CIDG ATCU OIC, Police Chief Inspector Roque Merdihia Jr., Toca has victimized a number of 246 from whom he extorted money of up to 90,000 pesos in exchange for a job in Canada.
Big time siyang recruiter, no? Illegal recruiter. No? Kaya ang isasampang kaso laban sa kanya ay itong large scale illegal recruitment. At kasama na rin yung swindling, no? Dahil tumanggap siya o niloko niya ang mga tao at napaniwala niya na mayroong trabaho at humingi siya ng malaking halaga ng pera sa bawat aplikanteng lumalapit sa kanya.
One of his victims, Janice Lopez, gave Toca 60,000 pesos with a promise of unemployment overseas. Until now, Lopez is still in the country. Janice worries on how she will explain her fate to her family, especially to his father in Mindanao, has sold some of their livestock just to raise the money she gave to Toca.
Sana maintindihan nila kasi hindi ko naman sinasadya na mangyari sa buhay namin. Biktima din po kami. Na sana hindi po sila magagalit sa akin kasi nangangarap naman din po kami. Para sa kanila naman po yung gagawin po namin.
On the other hand, the suspect argued that the victims were direct hire. Their departure was just delayed because of some problems came up.
Name hire po, meaning ang embassy po at saka POA inapruban ang job order ng employer. So ngayon itong employer, sila ho mismo ang magpa-process through embassy.
Toca is included in the POEA's red flag. He also couldn't explain why he was using the same company with a license that already expired since 2013. In his State of the Nation address, President Duterte ordered the police to strengthen its campaign against illegal recruitment in the country. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue Camp Crame.
Today's order of business at the House of Representatives includes the submission of priority legislations of President Rodrigo Duterte to the committee level. Among the priority bills include the reinstallation of death penalty against heinous crimes, amendments in the Juvenile Justice Act, which seeks to reduce the age of criminal liability from 15 to 9 years old, granting of emergency powers to the President to immediately resolve traffic problems in Metro Manila, and the resolution to hold a constitutional convention towards a shift to a federal form of government. The said bills have been referred to the House Committee on Justice, which is expected to call for sessions to discuss the respective provisions of the bills. Senators who were given committee chairmanships believe that their respective advocacies will be realized through the committees which they will lead. Darlene Basingan will tell us why.
39 permanent committees of the Senate were assigned to hear the processes, bills, resolutions, and various national issues. The constitutional amendments and revision of codes will be chaired by Senator Franklin Drilon, Public Order and Dangerous Drugs by Senator Panfil Lacson, Education, Arts, and Culture by Senator Bam Aquino, Committee on Tourism by Senator Nancy Binay, and Public Services by Senator Grace Poe. Chairmanship of the Committee on Agriculture and Food will be held by Senator Kiko Pangilinan, Ways and Means by Senator Sani Angara, Justice and Human Rights by Senator Laila de Lima, National Defense and Security by Senator Gringo Honasan, Urban Planning, Housing, and Urban Resettlement chaired by Senator J.V. Ejercito, and Finance by Senator Loren Legarda. Meanwhile, the chairmanship of the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources and on Social Justice, Welfare, and Rural Development were given to Senator Cynthia Villar, Public Works to Manny Pacquiao, Energy to Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Labor, Employment, and Human Resources and Development to Senator Joel Villanueva, Civil Service, Government Reorganization to Senator Antonio Trillanes IV, Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship to Mig Subiri, Health and Demography to Senator Risa Hontiveros. Meanwhile, the chairmanship of what is considered to be the most powerful committee in the Senate, the Blue Ribbon Committee, was given to Senator Richard Gordon. The senators believe that their respective advocacies will be realized through these committees.
Can work with it so I can continue my advocacy.
Effective naman tayo na sa Blue Ribbon Committee, di ba?
Senate President Coco Pimentel says a committee on foreign affairs could possibly be offered to Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, who says he is open to accept the said offer.
Kung foreign affairs na committee, baka pwede.
Darlene Basingan, UNTV News and Rescue.
The 38th National Disability Prevention and Rehabilitation Week focuses on the human rights of persons with disabilities in the country. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Based on a report by the World Health Organization and the World Bank concerning disability, 15% or equivalent to over 1 billion of the population in the world have disabilities. In the Philippines, according to the 2010 Census Population and Housing, persons with disability are prevalent among aged 5 to 19 years old. And the largest percent of disability comes from ages 10 to 14 years old. The celebration of the 38th National Disability Prevention and Rehabilitation Week with the theme Karapatan ng May Kapansanan, Isa Katuparan Now Na, focuses on giving importance to the human rights of persons with disability. The event was led by the Commission on Human Rights. This is in accordance with the RA 7277 or the Magna Carta for Disabled Persons. As a way of acknowledging the youth with disabilities, various activities were conducted in the country. One of which was the PWD Got Talent that took place at a mall in Cainta, Rizal, organized by the Persons with Disability Office or the PIDAO of the Government of Cainta in coordination with the Tahanang Walang Hagdan Incorporated and other non-government organizations. The event was attended by Miss Nebraska and 2015 Miss International USA McKenna Laychuk and NASA scientist Jojo Saison. The two are members of the Angelo Foundation, a charitable organization for persons with disabilities in the Philippines. The competition showcased the talents of the PWD in poster making, singing, and dancing.
Don't he do it for me? Now watch me wait up.
Event na ito ay isa sa mga advokasya namin para magkaroon ng kamalayan na ang ating pamahalaan at ang buong komunidad na para sa malaman nila po ang mga karapatan ng mga taong may kapansanan.
Kaya tayo gumagawa ng ganitong event is to showcase na we can also do things artfully, beautifully, and parehas lang tayo. May kapansanan nga kami, kayo walang kapansanan. Whatever you do in the arts, kaya din namin. And in fact, maraming mga masterpieces na nagagawa ang mga persons with disabilities.
Among the human rights of persons with disabilities is the enhancement of their intrinsic abilities in the fields of music and arts to make them feel like normal people, especially the youth who need special attention and care. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The government will conduct a nationwide soil analysis and will rehabilitate and construct roads and irrigation for food production. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
The government will test soils in the country. President Rodrigo Duterte said in his State of the Nation address or SONA, soil analysis will identify which crop is better for a certain area.
We shall also conduct a nationwide soil analysis to determine areas most suitable for rice farming to optimize production with the use of effective soil rehabilitation and fertilization.
Farm-to-market roads will also be rehabilitated and modern structures will be built to take care of harvests. Anti-illegal fishing and other fishery laws will be strictly implemented, including the backyard raising of fish.
Road development projects shall complement without trust to modern agricultural infrastructural and funding improving the construction and rehabilitation of roads and the irrigation, and establishing modern harvest and post-harvest facilities to minimize losses.
Mining operation standards will be observed to avoid the destruction of nature. House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez said they will consider the requirement of a legislative franchise for mining operations. The President recently ordered an inventory of all mining operations in the country, some of which had been shut down after being found with violations on regulations.
The DNR is likewise directed to review all permits granted to the mining, logging and other environmental sensitive activities to ensure compliance with government standards, and if warranted, ito na yung pinakamaganda, amend, suspend or revoke permits. Go ahead.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue.
The Las Piñas Parañaque Critical Habitat and Ecotourism Area formally opened its vermicomposting facility today. Brian De Paz will tell us why.
The vermicomposting facility that would recycle garden waste in Las Piñas Parañaque Critical Habitat and Ecotourism Area formally opened today. The facility will convert decomposing plants recovered from cleanup drives of government and non-government organizations in the wetland, considered of international importance by Ramsar Convention. According to Philippine Rice Institute, the vermicomposting is beneficial in processing organic fertilizer using earthworms that are fed with organic materials such as plants and animal wastes called vermicast. Vermicomposting is also promoted by the Department of Agriculture.
Today we have yung ating shredder na lahat ng garden waste pinaliliit natin para makain ng uod. And after makain ng uod yon, syempre yung uod kasama ng vermicast na fertilizer. Meron din tayong tinatawag na sieve. Pinaghihiwalay yung uod at saka yung fertilizer para yung uod maibalik natin do sa facility para kumain uli sila ng mga garden waste.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources and the Philippine Reclamation Authority has signed an agreement to facilitate the recycling facility. The vermicomposting structure is a donation from Villar Social Institute for Poverty Alleviation and Governance. The launching of the facility is in line with the International Mangrove Action Day and National Disaster Consciousness Month. In order to sustain the operation of the recycling facility, Senator Villar is pushing for the allotment of a portion of the national budget for the said project.
Pag hindi yan nakalagay na nakaline budget for a particular purpose, kawawa tayo. We are in the lowest priority. So, kailangan ilalagay sa budget kung saan ilalagay at gagamitin yon to maintain yung ating inaalagaan.
Brian De Paz, UNTV News and Rescue, Las Piñas City.
Motorists heading north coming from Pasay may have to find alternate routes and avoid the Magallanes to Ortigas stretch of the northbound lane of EDSA. Victor Cosare is at EDSA Bansalangin to tell us why live. Go ahead, Victor.
Gerry, even if it is almost 9 o'clock, heavy traffic still prevails along the northbound side of EDSA from Magallanes to Ortigas. That is why motorists may have to find alternate routes to avoid getting stuck in traffic. Meanwhile, here's the traffic situation on the other parts of EDSA. Moderate traffic prevails on both directions of EDSA along Balintawak and Muñoz area, while traffic is light along the southbound lane from North Avenue down to the Nia Road. Cars starts to slow down approaching Timog. Traffic remains moderate to heavy from Ortigas until they reach Makati and Pasay. Along the northbound lane, aside from the heavy traffic from Magallanes to Ortigas, Main Avenue to the Nepa Q Mart area is still problematic. Meanwhile, the whole stretch of Commonwealth Avenue is not a problem because traffic is light except for the Philcoa area. Quezon Avenue also has several traffic issues, particularly along Sergeant Esguerra to Scout Santiago and Roosevelt Avenue to G. Araneta. Moderate to heavy traffic also prevails along España. And that's the latest traffic situation. Back to you, Gerry.
Thank you for that report, Victor Cosare, reporting live from EDSA Bansalangin.
Y News will be right back. The Intertropical Convergence Zone is affecting Mindanao. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration or PAGASA says the Zamboanga Peninsula, ARMM, Misamis Occidental, Lanao del Norte, Sultan Kudarat, South Cotabato, Sarangani and Davao Oriental will experience cloudy skies with light to moderate rains. Metro Manila and the rest of the country will have partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers and thunderstorms. No tropical cyclone has been seen in the Philippine area of responsibility, but a low-pressure area might form this year. Bavaria's interior minister says Germany must be equipped for large-scale attacks. Meanwhile, at least 7 people were killed in an attack on African Union peacekeeping base in Somalia's capital. Anunez will tell us why.
In Somalia, suicide bombers killed at least 7 people as they tried to blast their way into the African Union's main peacekeeping base in Somalia's capital earlier today, police said. The force of the explosions shattered windows at Mogadishu's nearby airport, showering arriving passengers with glass. Al-Shabaab, the Islamist militant group fighting to topple Somalia's Western-backed government, claimed responsibility for the attack, saying it had killed more than 12 people with car bombs. Police said the first attacker detonated a car bomb and the second tried to storm the base on foot, but was shot and exploded at the gate. They said the 7 dead were from a private security firm. The guards were caught in the blast at the gate as they escorted UN personnel into the base, which is known as Helene. In Bangladesh, Bangladesh police earlier today said they had killed 9 militants who were believed to have been plotting an attack similar to the one on a cafe on July 1 in which 22 people were killed. They said the militants were holed up in a building in Kalyanpur in the outskirts of the capital Dhaka, and they opened fire on officers as they tried to enter. The militants were believed to be members of the Jamaat-ul-Mujahideen Bangladesh or JMB, a banned group that has pledged allegiance to Islamic State. Islamic State or IS claimed responsibility for the cafe attack, but the government has dismissed suggestions that the militant group has a presence in Bangladesh. And in Germany, Bavaria's Interior Minister Joachim Herrmann said on Monday the country must be equipped for violent attacks after 4 such incidents happened since July 18 that left 10 people dead and dozens injured situations. Herrmann made a statement in front of the media after a Syrian blew himself up outside of a musical festival in southern Germany on Sunday, July 24, wounding 15 people. It was the second violent incident in Germany on Sunday and the fourth in the past week, including the killing of 9 people by a deranged 18-year-old Iranian-German gunman in the Bavarian capital Munich on Friday, July 22. Islamic State claimed responsibility for the attack, according to Amaq, a news agency that supports Islamic State. The state prosecutor in Ansbach, where the attack took place, added that the Syrian background is being checked for a military connection. Ann Nunez, UNTV News and Rescue.
The first day of the Democratic Convention held at Wells Fargo in Philadelphia centers on a call for unity. Sonny Cos will tell us why.
The Democratic National Convention commences in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to formally announce Hillary Clinton as the official candidate of the Democratic Party in the November elections. The first day of the Democratic Convention centers on a call to unite against the presidential beat of Republican standard-bearer Donald Trump. Among the high-profile speakers of the day were First Lady Michelle Obama, New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, and former presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders. According to First Lady Michelle Obama, Clinton is the only person qualified and trustworthy to become the next president of America.
Every election is about who will have the power to shape our children for the next 4 or 8 years of their lives. And I am here tonight because in this election, there is only one person who I trust with that responsibility. Only one person who I believe is truly qualified to be President of the United States, and that is our friend Hillary Clinton.
Meanwhile, Senator Bernie Sanders calls to his supporters to vote for Clinton despite the email scandal the latter is facing.
I have known Hillary Clinton for 25 years. I remember her, as you do, as a great First Lady who broke precedent in terms of the role that a First Lady was supposed to play as she helped lead the fight for universal health care. I served with her in the United States Senate and know her as a fierce advocate for the rights of children, for women, and for the disabled. Hillary Clinton will make an outstanding president, and I am proud to stand with her tonight. Thank you all very much.
Yesterday, Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigned as chairperson of the Democratic National Convention due to the email controversy. Meanwhile, one national presidential survey shows Donald Trump moving ahead of Hillary Clinton by 8%. The Democrats are positive Clinton would surpass Trump after the convention. Sanicas, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
Japanese top government spokesman Yoshihide Suga said earlier today that the mass stabbing that took place at a facility for the disabled in central Japan earlier was not related to the Islamic State. The knife-wielding man attacked the facility, leaving 19 people dead and 25 wounded. Police arrested Satoshi Uematsu, 26 years old, a former employee at the facility located in Sagamihara City in Kanagawa Prefecture, about 25 miles or 40 kilometers southwest of Tokyo, after he turned himself in. The Kanagawa Prefecture officials said police recovered a bag with several knives, at least one stained with blood. Authorities are still investigating possible motives. Governments call the stabbing incident Japan's worst mass killing in decades.
Spanish health authorities said on Monday that the country has recorded the first case in Europe of a baby born with a microcephaly birth defect associated with the ZIKA virus. According to a spokeswoman for the regional health authorities of Catalonia, where the baby was born, the woman had been diagnosed with the virus in May and had decided to keep the baby. The woman, who was 20 weeks into her pregnancy when she was diagnosed, had been infected with the virus and with the dengue during a trip to Latin America. Doctors from the Vall d'Hebron Hospital in Barcelona said the boy's condition was stable. Seven Russian swimmers cannot compete at the Rio Olympics, says FINA. Meanwhile, NBA superstar Michael Jordan speaks out and donates money to two different groups. Aaron Romero will tell us why.
Federación Internacional de Natación, or FINA, has ruled that seven Russian swimmers, including breaststroke medal hopeful Yulia Efimova, are ineligible to compete in the Rio Olympics, the governing body of world swimming said on Monday. The International Olympic Committee ruled on Sunday not to impose a blanket ban on Russian athletes due to the country's doping history, allowing sports federations to decide on individual cases. Russian swimmers Mikhail Dovgalyuk, Natalia Lovkova, and Anastasia Krapivina were also withdrawn. Nikita Lubintsev, Vladimir Morozov, and Daria Ustinova are ineligible to compete at the Rio Games as their names appeared in a recent World Anti-Doping Agency, or WADA, independent person report, FINA said. Meanwhile, basketball legend Michael Jordan spoke out on police violence on Monday and announced two $1 million grants to two different groups. Jordan said he wants fair treatment for people of color by police, as well as respect and support for police officers. One of the $1 million grants is going to the International for Community Police Relations, an organization launched by the International Association of Chiefs of Police that will work to foster best practices in community policing. The other grant will law enforcement reform work by the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People's Legal Defense, or NAACP Fund, a long-standing civil rights group. Jordan had briefly retired from basketball in the mid-1990s after his father was murdered. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
North Korea holds an opening ceremony for the Central Zoo and Nature Museum in Pyongyang. Meanwhile, Cubans geek out, dance and dress up as their favorite otaku anime fantasy characters at the festival in Havana. Precious Ong tells us why.
North Korea opened a zoo and nature museum in Pyongyang. The North's official news agency KCNA said the 35,000 square meter nature museum has the space hall, halls for Paleozoic era to Kinozoic era animals and plant halls, and an e-library. KCNA added that more than 40 sheds were set up for reptiles, monkeys, elephants, giraffes, horses, and beasts at the zoo. Meanwhile, one of the world's least connected countries, Cuba, embraces the Japanese subculture of anime and manga graphic novels, spreading among its youth as they held their third Otaku Festival. Hundreds of otakus, or geeky fans, flocked from around Cuba to an event in the Havana Theater, defying the sweltering summer heat to roleplay, sporting the costumes of their favorite fantasy characters, a practice known as as cosplay. Some performed scenes from animation movies on stage, others sang songs in Japanese or did dance choreographies, to the delight of shouting onlookers. Accessories can't easily be bought, so otakus made their own costumes, saving up for the materials. Just as their country is opening more to the world, the festival's director hopes the Cubans go global with their cosplay. Cubans say it offered them an escape, and the manga heroes encouraged them to overcome their difficulties. Precious Ong, UNTV News and Rescue.
Are you gonna give us an otaku dance?
No.
No?
I cannot.
You cannot. Okay. Those are the reasons behind the news. July 26, 2016. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Gerry Alcantara.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Thank you for watching
Why News.